I'm Phyllis Jackson. Thanks for joining us for Stay at Home Connect.
The federal government officially declares teachers as essential workers, saying the designation simply provides guidance and is voluntary. However, it calls on educators to return to the classroom even after possible exposure to coronavirus, as long as they remain asymptomatic. The state of Virginia is using a new technology in the hopes of containing coronavirus.
Virginia is proud to launch a new digital app called COVID Wise, COVIDWISE, that will be able to send you alerts if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive. This app, COVID Wise, does not, I'm going to repeat that, does not track or store your personal information. It does not track you at all. It doesn't rely on GPS or your personal information. And while we want everyone to download it, it is voluntary. Instead, it uses the Apple-Google Bluetooth low-energy technology, which assigns random keys to positive cases. It uses those keys to determine if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for the COVID-19 virus and send you an alert.
AMC theaters open with 15-cent movie tickets and a Safe and Clean initiative.
We thoroughly enhanced our cleaning procedures and upgraded to HEPA filter vacuums and MERV 13 air filters. New electrostatic disinfectant sprayers are used in auditoriums before each showtime. All auditorium capacities are reduced to allow for social distancing. Masks are still required in the auditorium unless you're enjoying food or drinks.
Atlanta City Council member Carla Smith will join with officials from Invest Atlanta for the Summerhill Small Business Lending webinar later this month. If you are a Summerhill business owner, you will need to register. You can go to investatlanta.com and click on the Events tab for more.
Well, that's a wrap for Stay at Home Connect. Have a great night.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire, and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
Welcome to Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
After 1 week of classes, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and Notre Dame switch gears, abandoning in-person learning for remote classes after hundreds of students and faculty test positive for coronavirus. The schools join a number of colleges and universities having to rethink their education strategies after COVID-19 outbreaks. The World Health Organization says young people are increasingly driving the spread of the virus. Officials say many are simply unaware that they are infected because they have mild symptoms or no symptoms at all, then pass it along to others, placing those with underlying conditions or the elderly at greater risk. Medical experts warn that the fall season could produce a collision of coronavirus and the flu, expanding the range of illness and placing an even greater strain on the healthcare system. Emory University infectious disease expert Dr. Rafi Ahmed is hopeful that a new type of flu vaccine will eventually be created, one with greater efficacy and lifespan.
Current influenza vaccines, which are quite effective, but there's room for improvement of these vaccines. And in particular, we would like to get away from immunizing people every year. We would ideally like to give a vaccine that's good for many years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe even longer.
Dr. Ahmed says the development of a universal flu vaccine would require a lot of new science. He says the goal would be one that would not only provide protective immunity against circulating strains, but also for strains that might emerge. The National Institutes of Health has been working on creating such a vaccine for a couple of years now. Meanwhile, experts from the CDC say it's important for everyone to get a flu shot this year. If you are a small business owner impacted by the pandemic and you want to apply for a small business grant, the deadline is fast approaching. For more on the Resurgence Grant Fund and the Strengthen Beauty Fund, go to investatlanta.com.
That's it for Stay at Home Connect. Have a great night.
My name is Madeline Archibald, and I am the chair of the City Utilities Committee meeting. Today is August 25th, 2020, and I am pleased to call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to have Mr. Evans do a roll call, please.
Good morning, everyone. Councilmember Madeline Archibald.
Yep.
Councilmember Andrea Boone.
Correct.
Councilmember Dustin Hillis. Here. Councilmember J.P. Matsakai. Here. Councilmember Joyce Shepard. Councilmember Howard Shook. Aye. Councilmember Cleta Winslow.
Present. Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. We do have a quorum of members. Next on our agenda is to have Mr. Evans read our remote statement, please.
This City Utilities Committee is being conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with OCGA 5014-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by dialing 877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the Friday, August 21st meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlantaga.gov, the Council's YouTube channel, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via @ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council City Utilities Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available Friday, August 21st via atlantacityga.iqn2.com. In addition, the public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6057 between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. the day before the meeting. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of the meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to the committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, for that. All other votes that will be taken by the committee will be electronically collected and or populated. I want to know if there are any council members who need to do a voice at this time.
I'm present, Madam Chair.
Good morning. Are any members in need of making voice votes for this meeting?
Yeah, Shook here, Madam Chair. Thank you. Until I finish downloading the agenda, I'll be voice only.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And Winslow.
All right, great. All right, so our next, and I would like to, we do have a relatively short agenda, so my recommendation would be to go through our legislative action items and then have the balance of the time for the quarterly update from Public Works. Is there any objection to us following that course? Okay, with that said, I will make a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Need a second. Thank you very much. All right, so we've had a second and a third. I think we're ready to vote. We'll let Mr. Shook be the second, please.
The vote is open.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you very much. Ms. Boone?
Yes.
Okay, do you need to vote by voice or?
I should be ready in 3 minutes, but right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That vote is closed. Mr. Evans, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, that's unanimously approved. Next is an approval of the minutes and a motion.
Shook seconds.
Okay, I'll make the motion then. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open.
Thank you. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Ms. Book? Oh, no, you're ready now. Okay, we're good.
The vote is closed.
All right, thank you. That was unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Next, colleagues, we move to the front of our agenda for public comment. Have a comment. Mr. Evans, please play the public.
Few council members and the citizens of Atlanta who care about what your elected officials are doing. It's public policy analyst. My comments today relate to People TV. If you will take the time to check the minutes of People TV meetings, you will note that there is a glaring absence of board members who are assigned to fill positions representing city government. Please take action to see that the 4 People TV board slots allocated to the city council and the 3 People TV board slots allocated to the mayor's office are filled by community-conscious grassroots citizens who believe in public television. By your taking these actions, People TV can once again put eyes on neighborhood planning units, such as Neighborhood Planning Unit R, by revitalizing NPU on TV. On the average, fewer than 0.2% of eligible adults within Neighborhood Planning Unit R can be found in attendance at NPUR meetings. The NPUR9 just won't reach out to the 99.8% of the community to keep them informed and up to date. Using video cameras and Facebook Live, NPU on TV can then document how citizen participation has been restricted by the NPUR9, Amsterdam Robinson, Lois Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Malcolm White, Vanette O. Scott, Allison Hathaway, and the NPUR9 cohort. Thank you.
I am Brother Bonnie Muhammad. I am Aboriginal, ancient ancestor, age-added, indigenous, committed, Moorish man who knows my cosmological order and frequency to nature. And I am not a believer in the Roman Catholic Church religion, Christianity. In your Bible scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, not one person, not one human was born from a woman's uterus or womb. My house makes out hotel, a shade, and a shade. So it is. Utility committee members and chairman. I have asked ever since last year and only during the month of January when I was still coming down for the committee meeting on utilities. There's a house that violates zoning. And Ms. Overstreet has known about it, our office has known about it, the president is more than known, and I appreciate her facilitation. Get that information to my district representative. But I ask you all, who was there with John Lewis eulogy and spoke about reverence the loss? The words that he spoke. Do you recall what he said? That we people that are the millennials, you young city council people, there's a large number of you from Ebenezer to the Capitol State House. Why don't we have someone to look into this? Someone is building and remodeling a house 25 on a block, Button Road. I even called it zoning and gave information. Show the will that you want for your fellow constituents, that what you want for yourself. Yes, someone have a house that has been zoned in violation of the ordinance of Atlanta. Are we worthy, carbonated people? Are we worthy to have someone to collaborate with this overstreet and administration to do right by ourselves? Not like Mr. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who specifically said in 92, Joe Biden said, lock up all of them. We don't need to try to make no person have freedom when they don't want to share. And this Kamala Harris locked up children that were tourists that look like me. So please do right by it.
Is that the end?
That concludes the comments.
All right, thank you very much. All right. We do not have any first reads, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, with that being said, let's go to section I, ordinances for second read.
Item number 1, 20-01537, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor to enter into amendment number 9 for FC 5035A, annual contract for the disposal of municipal solid waste with Georgia Waste Systems, Inc., DBA Waste Management of Atlanta, on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management and the Department of Public Works to add funding in an amount not to exceed $1,713,092.00 to extend the term of the agreement for a period not to exceed 4 months, effective September 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, in accordance with Section 2-1163, Article 10 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from the Fund Department organization and account numbers listed and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. I understand that there's a need for an amendment, but I'd like to hear from the department first so we'll understand why we need to amend it. So who's going to talk to us first? Is it Ms. Lipscomb?
Yes, ma'am. Carla Lipscomb, Department of Public Works. As stated, this legislation is to add funding to an existing contract and to initiate amendment number 9 for 4 months, month to month. We are currently in the procurement process, and we're just awaiting from procurement to find out how many submittals we have that can be evaluated.
Okay. And so we have Mr. Fletcher from Watershed Management.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The Department of Watershed Management, we are adding additional funding to this legislation in the amount of $350,000.
Is it 350 or 250? Does silence mean you're checking?
Madam Chair, it's a total of $350 for the Department of Watershed Management.
All right, thank you. Mr. Evans, I see a notation here that we're asked to amend to increase for a total of $250,000.
That's right. The new total will be $350,000, but it's only adding $250 to get to that number.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you both. Colleagues, any questions or entertain? First, need to amend. We have a board member who wants, council member who wants to speak, and then I'd like Ms. Evans to read the proposed amendment. But first, the speaker is Mr. Mazzicott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is the rate the same rate that we're going to be paying in this extension as we have before?
Yes, sir. The rate will remain the same.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else, or we can have Mr. Evans read the proposal?
This amendment would increase the funding a total of $250,000. It takes the total funding in the entire paper from $1,713,092 to $1,963,092. It's going to amend this by deleting certain language and adding language in Section 1 and in Section 3. Section 1 is adjusting the overall total. Section 3 is adjusting the department fund codes listed there. The paper is also to be amended to add the specific titles of Section 2-1163 in the procurement and real estate code of ordinances.
Okay, so for the public, the $350,000 that's proposed to be added to this paper is proposing that $150,000 be for water and wastewater at the R.M. Clayton plant, and then for consulting at the sewer treatment plant is the additional $200,000 allocation. It says for sewer linear maintenance, repair, consulting, professional services, sewage collection, and disposal. Are there any questions about the amendment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amendment. And I'll make that motion.
Second, Mazzicott.
Second. Let's let Ms. Winslow second it, Mr. Mazzicott, if you don't mind.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Without discussion, let's go ahead and open the vote.
The vote is open.
Mr. Shook, how do you vote?
Nay.
The vote is closed.
Thank you. I think we had one nay, and is it 6 yeas, 1 nay, or 7 yeas?
6 yeas,
Okay.
1 nay.
Thank you. The legislation has been adopted. Now we entertain a motion to approve as amended.
Motion approved as amended, Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Hillis. Second, please. I'll second it. Any further discussion? If not, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Mr. Shook, how do you vote?
Nay, thank you.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 1 nay. That stands approved as amended. Next item, please.
Item number 2, 20-01538, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee to correct ordinance number 20-01431 to amend the source of funding for amendment number 3 for FC 9215, annual contract for dewatering, hauling, and disposal services with Denali Q Joint Venture on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management and for other purposes.
All right, Mr. Fletcher.
Move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Winslow. Is Mr. Fletcher on the line? And we'll need a second to that motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I'm here. This legislation is requested to amend the source of funding. Ordinance number 20-0-1431 was adopted by the Atlanta City Council and approved by the mayor, authorizing amendment number 3 for FC 9215, annual contract for dewatering, hauling, and disposal service for Denali to add additional funding for dewatering, hauling, and disposal service, which included an incorrect fund account to pay for the services for the Utah Creek WRC.
Okay, so this is a error that can be corrected by this legislation. The amount doesn't change, the vendor doesn't change. The only thing was there was an error in the accounting reference in that legislation, 20-0-1431.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Ms. Winslow offered a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Hillis.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of the motion that is now before us? All right, seeing no speakers, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Mr. Shook, how do you vote?
Aye, thank you.
Okay.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas.
All right, that is unanimously approved. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 3, 20-015.
Excuse me, let me ask you a question. Does the caption change? If so, read the caption, and then we'll bring the substitute forward.
Certainly. It's 20-01539. And it is a substitute ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor to enter into amendment number 3 for FC 9187, annual contract for green infrastructure and landscape services with Ed Castro Landscape, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $1,647,500.00 to add funding for additional landscaping services on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management and Parks and Recreation, to add the departments of Aviation and Public Works as authorized users, to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 9 months, effective September 17th, 2020, and to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to pay outstanding invoices in the amount of $175,000.00 in accordance with Section 2-1163, solicitations or awards in violation of law, subsection C, remedies after award, Article 10 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. All contracted work and invoices will be charged to and paid from the Fund Department organization and account numbers listed and for other purposes.
Substitute forward.
Second, Hillis.
All right, thank you. I'll make that motion then. Please open the vote. There's no one ready.
The vote is open.
Thank you. Mr. Shook, how do you vote?
Aye, thank you.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas.
All right, that's unanimously approved. We do have some speakers for the department, but I see Mr. Hillis has a question. The department first. Question first.
Say that again, Council.
I'm talking.
Chairwoman Archibald.
Yeah, I'm talking. Now, say, did you want to hear from the department first, or did you want to ask your question right now?
They can go first. Thank you.
So I have Mr. Hill here. Are you ready, Mr. Hill? Todd Hill? Is someone on the line from Watershed?
I'm being told Todd Hill is not on the line, but there are others from Watershed.
Oh, so speak up, please. You can go in any particular order. I just had Watershed first. Terrence Franklin or whoever is representing Watershed.
Good morning, Madam Chair and council members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Terrence Franklin, Director of Facilities Management for Watershed. This legislation is to authorize an extension on a month-to-month basis from September of 17-20 through the end of next fiscal year to cover green infrastructure and landscape services for our facilities. And as you can see, we also added aviation and public works asked to be a part of this. Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, we do. And so I have Mr. Hillis. Go ahead, Mr. Hillis, with your question.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman Archibald. Our first question is for, I guess, Watershed, since they're the one that initially executed this contract and they're seeking this extension. We've had some landscaping issues that I brought up at the previous meeting at RM Clayton, but my understanding was that that is handled internally by Watershed. So what I would like to see, unless you, I'm sure it's pretty extensive, but can't go over it at this meeting, but I would like to see a list of the facilities or areas that Mr. Castro, Ed Castro Landscaping, is tasked with maintaining, and additionally the green infrastructure projects that are referenced here, what has been completed and what is proposed. And then also what I'd like to see is, given we're adding 2 other departments onto this contract, what are they proposing to use this contractor for? So look forward to hearing from others, but my hope is that we can approve on condition that we receive that information. So I'll make that motion.
Thank you. There's that. I'll say.
Okay.
Go ahead. And then we have another question from a colleague.
Okay, Councilmember Hillis, I'll work on providing you that information as soon as possible, and for all others.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Hillis, does that conclude your question?
Yes, just I guess in addition to Watershed, we would need to also, I'm sure they're on this meeting, but on that condition, like I said, we would also want to hear from them, Public Works and Aviation, as to what they're proposing to add on to this contract.
Right, and part 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Mr. Mathapike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we could add on to that request by Councilmember Hillis, the frequency that we are maintaining these areas, both what this proposal would cover as well as what we're doing internally. I also have a watershed management facility that looks pretty ragged. And so I'm curious about how often we are maintaining those during the summer, what our schedule is, and what we're asking this company to do as well. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Todd Hill, Department of Watershed Management. And
yes, sir.
I can answer that question. Sorry for the technical difficulty I had just momentarily ago. But our goal is to maintain these facilities that require mowing every 2 weeks, weather permitting. Now, that is a standard grass cutting. It's not like you're landscaping like an apartment complex landscaping crew that comes in. It's to mow and maintain it. And that's always been how we've managed the green spaces that we do not have MOUs on with other groups that want to maintain it and make it into a more park-like looking area for community activities.
Mr. Matt, you have a question?
Yes, if I could follow up with Mr. Hill, please. Is that just mowing? There's obviously, there's shrubs and other vegetation on these properties that also need care. Is there some type of schedule that, you care for those and, go get all of the overgrowth and trim and get everything out of those? Because some of them are pretty unsightly.
Well, for the green infrastructure, we do weed and everything. A lot of the vegetation is natural vegetation that is native plants. And so those are maintained differently because you'll do a pruning every year on them for any disease growth and et cetera. But it is more of native plants and materials that we use that are plants that can absorb water quickly and can handle inundation.
Yeah, I'm really talking about our watershed facilities and not the green infrastructure locations.
Right, and the watershed facilities like the Tanyard Creek facility, et cetera, is a mowing, and then we can do a more extensive trimming on bushes and stuff, but it's not like your standard. We're actually trimming for diseased items and not actually trimming hedges, et cetera, like you would at an apartment complex.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Shepherd.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to the list also in my district over in Castle View, Maryland. There's a McDaniel Street, used to be an overflow plant there. Hasn't been used in quite some time, but it's still owned and controlled by the watershed department. And we continuously have to call you all. You could actually cut the entry point to there is overgrown. It sits in the middle of a neighborhood that is pretty much, is very well kept, and that is one of the complaints I get all the time is from that. And I have to call you all continuously to ask you to come and cut it down. So when you're looking at that, I need to make sure that you all are looking at all of that also, because that's a problem.
This is Terrence Franklin again, Councilman Shelter. We will address this and keep you informed on our schedule.
It's at the intersection of Mansfield Road and Hillside Drive, and it's the entry point to a water facility. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, Madam Chair, Council members, this is Aaron Davis, Director of Landside Facilities of Department of Aviation. I just wanted to add in the areas where we intend on utilizing this contract throughout the next 9 months. It is to address some vegetation and remediation along fencing throughout the airport, giving a 10-foot clearance on either side of that fencing areas through the entrance of the airport. In addition, this will be also to remediate overgrown areas on certain elevations that are kind of beyond the routine mowing and maintenance of the airport. Those are the areas where we're looking to remediate some of the weeding and issues that are occurring throughout the airport that we will need assistance with.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
A question that posed by our analyst, I want to read and have a response to. This particular, this has been renewed. The authorization for these services have been in place and it's been renewed at least 2 times without any lapse. So why are there 175,000 standing?
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Terrence Franklin again with Facilities Management for Watershed. This constitutes invoices for fiscal year 20. There was a decision made by the previous leadership to combine the amendment I was proposing earlier this year with this amendment, and that's why we have accrued some costs for fiscal year 20, and that's what this will cover.
So you're saying there was some delayed processing of invoices received?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this doesn't change the amount or increase in any way because of that delay?
I'm sorry, you broke up, ma'am.
Is this causing an increase, or is this just
This is what the normal cost would be for my fees up to fiscal year 20.
Okay. All right, thank you. I mean, have we had a motion yet, or where are we procedurally?
There was a motion by Councilmember Hillis, and I believe you seconded the motion.
And that was on condition that we received some extensive supplemental information prior to starting.
Correct. That's to attaching the condition to the substituted piece of legislation.
Okay. So, questions or unread? Otherwise, we're ready to vote on what substituted and on condition. The
vote is open.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote? In favor. Thank you. Mr. Shook?
Aye.
Well, thank you.
Vote is closed. 7 yeas.
All right, that is unanimously approved on condition as substituted. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Next is item number 4, 20-01540, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to apply for and accept a grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management in an amount not to exceed $300,000.00 to initiate the conceptual design for a regional waste management facility, and authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute any required agreements and for other purposes.
Thank you. Ms. Browning, are you on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair and council members. This is Nikita Browning, Interim Commissioner. Good morning. The purpose of this ordinance is to seek legislative approval to apply for and accept an EPA grant to initiate the concept design for a regional waste management facility. Since the beginning of the year, DWM has facilitated several workshops with other neighboring utilities to explore the possibility for a regional and sustainable solution to address the challenges concerning biosolids disposal and to develop a roadmap for the path forward. If we are awarded this grant, it will enable DWM to proceed with the development of a concept design for a regional anaerobic co-digestion facility to accommodate not only biosolids, but also food waste, fog, and high-strength organic waste. I will be providing an overview of our efforts for the past several months as part of the next departmental quarterly update.
So did you mention there's no cost sharing or match or other financial commitment from the city?
No cost share or additional commitment.
Great. Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions for Interim Commissioner Browning or a motion?
Shook moves approvals amended on condition.
Winslow, second.
As substituted, sorry.
Yeah, no, we don't have any substitutes or amendments. It's ready to go. So your motion is to approve.
Yeah,
and second.
Subtract whatever you need to take out.
Okay. Ms. Evans, you don't have to do that. All right, and it's been seconded by Winslow. I don't see any speakers lined up, so we're ready to vote.
The vote is open.
Thank you.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas.
All right, that is unanimously approved. Thank you, Interim Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Next, moving to resolution.
Item number 5, 20R4270, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding and contract item agreement with the State of Georgia Department of Transportation on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management to relocate and or adjust water valve boxes, water meters and boxes, manholes, water mains, fire hydrants, and other related facilities in conjunction with the State of Georgia Department of Transportation project number listed 519 Armour Drive at CS 520 Monroe Drive and CS 516 Plaster Avenue in Fulton County in an amount not to exceed $142,342.17. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the Fund Department organization and account number listed and for other purposes.
Ms. Vaccaro, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and Council members. This is Rob Vaccaro, Department of Watershed Management. The purpose of this legislation is to request the Mayor to enter into an MOU with GDOT in an amount not to exceed $142,342.17. GDOT is sponsoring an intersection improvement project that will construct a single-lane roundabout at the intersection of Monroe Drive and Armour Drive. Watershed's work includes installing, relocating, and adjusting about 70 feet of 16-inch water pipe, 520 feet of 8-inch sanitary sewer ductile iron pipe, also some water service lines, fire hydrant, other appurtenances within the project's footprint. Included in the legislative packages is a map of the project location. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Vaccaro. Colleague, I do not see the speakers lined up. I'll entertain the motion.
Shook moves approval.
Thank you. Need a second. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. All right. So in readiness, let's put.
The vote is open.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas.
All right, that is unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Vaccaro. Next, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 6, 20R4271, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute Amendment number 4 for FC 8171 Yard Debris Processing and Diversion Program with Tag Grinding Services, Inc. on behalf of the Department of Public Works in an amount not to exceed $500,000.00. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the Fund Department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
All right, Ms. Lipscomb, are you on the phone?
Yes, ma'am. Carla Lipscomb, Department of Public Works. This resolution is to add funding to an existing contract for tag grinding. They're currently responsible for processing and hauling of the city's yard debris.
All right. I have some speakers up or some questions. Colleagues, Mr. Mazzakite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is around where we are on yard waste pickup. I know that we had some lapse in service due to COVID impacting our workers. I wondered if you could please give us an update on that, and also if you could tell me if this contract will be used to supplement our workforce so that we can get back to regular pickups.
Okay, no, sir. This contract is solely for the processing of the material. Collections is currently done in-house, and Gayla may be on and may be able to speak to the status of collection staffing.
Well, let me add, Mr. Mazzacite, I appreciate that question. I thought in the quarterly update that would address that.
Very good. We'll hold it till then. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hillis.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Ms. Liston, for being on the call. My question, I have a couple questions. I understand this is for the contractor. Does the contractor perform their work on site at the incinerator facility?
Yes, sir. All mulching, shredding, loading into the transportation vehicles are all conducted on site at the James Jackson facility.
And that's all done by the contractor, not DPW employees?
Correct. DPW only brings the material to the site, and we assist with the unloading of the material and push the material to create space so that other trucks may dump as well.
Understand. The second question is, I know that, and it's, I guess, stated in the this resolution that a lot of this also comes from the Parks Department, yet all the funding from this is coming from Public Works. Can you tell us as to why?
I cannot tell you as to why, but currently we are having discussions to try to rectify the fact that DPW is picking up the cost.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ms. Wilson. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
When do you believe it's in the process of being rectified? How much will be complete that task?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
As you said, you're in the process of, or the departments are in the process of rectifying the contribution, I guess, that should be coming from the Parks Department. I'm asking, when do you expect that rectifying process?
Yes, ma'am. The commissioners, we actually have a meeting scheduled for today.
All right.
So we're considering the next contract. This contract expires in January, and we're planning to include all other departments in the new solicitation.
Understood. All right. Thank you. We may have Ms. Hillis, thank you for bringing up that point. Any other questions, colleagues?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my question is why we need a vendor to process yard waste since the city is no longer collecting it.
The DPW facility accepts material from the Parks Department, as well as watershed management, as well as DPW collections. We have been receiving yard debris material from the Department of Public Works. It may not be as steady, but once we focus the staff that has not been impacted on collections of yard debris, we do receive that material.
I see. Thank you.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I did want to state I'm going to be abstaining from this from now, just because there's some other information that I've sought out, as I stated in yesterday's public safety meeting, about some claims that have to do with the facility. So I'll just, as I did in that meeting, I'd ask for Public Works and the Law Department to reach out to me to discuss those matters.
Thank you. Is that James Johnson facility in District 9?
Yes, ma'am. James Jackson Parkway. That's the Chattahoochee River.
Yes. All right. Great. Thank you for your vigilance. Mr. Mazzacite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd feel better about this legislation if we got the contributions from the other departments worked out here. Would it be a problem? What's the timing urgency on this legislation?
Mr. One moment, please. Okay, since this contract is existing and we're actually in the last 6 to 8 months of the contract, we do need the funding. This is my FY21 funding. I am aware that our finance department may be reaching out for chargebacks. I'm not sure where that is, but I'm preparing for the new contract.
So with a 2-week delay or a month delay, how much of a impact would that have on the services that are being delivered?
The 2-week delay shouldn't impact us too much.
All right. Mr. Mazzacott?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to hold this until it's worked out, and so that we're sure that the appropriate departments are bearing the appropriate cost.
All right. Mr. Hillis? Looking for a second?
Second, Shook.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hillis? I had you still speak. Are you to conclude your comments?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, let me take up you. All right, so it's been moved and seconded to hold this resolution. Any other unreadiness? If not, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you.
Vote is closed. 78.
All right. Unanimous that this resolution will be held. Thank you very much. Are there any other papers to be considered today? Anything coming from health?
That concludes our legislative slate of items.
All right, great. Thanks. Let's move back to Section D, Presentation Updates Report, Department of Public Works. You're up. I'm assuming that all the colleagues have the presentation. Will this also be up on Facebook for the Calendar 26, the presentation?
The slides will be visible to all who are watching, and it is available on the City Utilities Committee's presentation page.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Commissioner? What the heck is this?
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Commissioner Jackson with the Department of Public Works, and we wanted to share with you today the performance of the department through the fiscal year, fourth quarter of fiscal year 2020. Before we get started, I'd like to, as I typically do, thank the men and women of our department who continue to deliver those services, those essential services, even now with it raining, on a consistent basis. I'm going to move right into the financial part of it. Could you put up slide 2, please? As of June 30th, the Office of Solid Waste Services spent nearly $47.8 million, or 93% of its budget. The Department of Fleet Services utilized 94%, or $28 million of its budget, bringing the department's overall total budget to $75.9 million, or 93%. I'd like to share that a large part of our being under budget at this point stems from the 115 vacancies that we have across the department, which resulted in a net savings of $1.1 million in personnel costs, an additional savings of $1.5 million in group health insurance and pension costs, and $1.2 million in savings in workers' comp budgeted allocation. For our contracted services, we did go over budget by about 12%,
We experienced increases in solid waste disposal costs from $37.50 per ton to $38.50 per ton. We had a threefold increase in our recycling processing fees from $25 per ton to $75 per ton in November 2019. And we also experienced an 89% increase in our yard trimming processing from $18 per ton to $34 per ton. We have a slight budget overrun in our supplies due to our natural gas usage for our natural gas vehicles for solid waste and the purchase of 96-gallon containers to accommodate the increased request for containers due to COVID-19. We have an unexpected expenditures in capital replacement to replace the dead animal collections vehicle, 4 crew cab trucks for our suite officers, and a single-wide trailer for our bin delivery unit. And we also had about $136,000 cost to acquire 4 parcels surrounding the Gun Club landfill this year. The department's overtime budget remained under budget for FY20 in spite of our personnel challenges and largely due to the implementation of our staggered reporting process due to the pandemic, which allowed us to redirect resources throughout the day to address missed collections and special requests. And this year, the coronavirus pandemic has led to some unplanned budgetary items, including a total of $263,000 for supplies and cleaning of department facilities and vehicles due to employees testing positive for COVID-19. As the chart shows, at least 2 facilities were cleaned 4 times during the fourth quarter. This number continues to rise as we move into fiscal year 21. Next slide, please. The end of June through July saw the highest spikes with 20 of our 27 employees testing positive for COVID-19. To date, we've had a total of 14 employees return to work following the required quarantine and clearance from their medical practitioner. An average of 60 teleworking employees daily and an inventory of COVID-19 supplies, which includes 20,340 masks, 370 face shields, 515 boxes of gloves, 571 overalls, and 731 gallons of hand sanitizer and disinfectant items for cleaning. On average, our frontline personnel are issued about 350 face masks weekly. We're continuing our efforts to maintain a 3-month supply of the PPE for the remainder of the year. And in response to the mayor's executive order for masks, we are securing 6,500 additional free cloth masks through our affiliation with the Solid Waste Association of North America, who has partnered with FEMA for the distribution by the middle of this month. SWANA has also made available to our solid waste team a one-time payment of $500 for all team members who have contracted the virus to help with personnel and medical expenses as needed. So far, we've had 14 of our team members apply for this one-time payment. On a daily basis, we conduct over 1,100 daily healthcare screenings a week, and COVID-19 has brought about a recent surge in residential solid waste collections. We started out in March. As we looked at the trend from March up through May, we experienced almost a 500-ton increase. That number dropped down to about 200 tons increase on an average basis, and we continue to address the increase with the personnel and the equipment that we have available. As in health and safety precautions, we implemented new service campaigns to protect our service crews and to address the increase in tonnage. To respond to the if it doesn't fit, schedule it, the response to that program remains high, with new appointments extending 30 to 60 days out. Issuance to request for a second container are being fulfilled as our containers are made available. And as part of the mayor's Fix It Phase 2 plan submitted by the DCO and CEOO, Operation Clean Sweep began addressing blighted areas throughout the city and council districts starting June 27th on alternating Saturdays. Due to the pandemic impact to solid waste, the schedule has been revised to dispatch these teams once per month going forward and utilizing blight data from our suite officer citations, code enforcement citations, and requests from council districts. Our Keep Atlanta Beautiful Commission has also re-engaged community groups for community cleanup beginning in early June in an effort to support DPW's blight removal as part of Fix It Atlanta Phase 2. As a result of these two programs, we've collected over 215 tons of debris through the clean sweep operation and facilitated over 70 cleanups throughout the city. In an effort to supplement reduced staffing due to COVID, 60 Phase 2 has also brought together support from Workforce Atlanta to supply disenfranchised residents through the National Emergency Grant Program. Our efforts are underway with the Mayor's Immigrant Affairs Office to enhance efforts to bring on additional personnel through our diversity program, and internal departments such as ADOT, the Department of Parks and Rec, and Watershed have also provided personnel to offset staffing impacts. Next slide, please. The Department of Public Works engages a multi-step process for notification and mitigation protocol regarding positive COVID-19 tests for employees. Once we learn a team member has tested positive for the virus, our Human Resources Department steps in to verify the information, complete a survey from the City of Atlanta Pandemic Coordination Team, and work with the employee on their return to work. Our Emergency Preparedness Manager steps in with mitigation recommendations, coordinates with the Communications Office on messaging, sends a draft email to the pandemic team for review and approval, then alerts departmental team members through our Everbridge program, while the comms team emails the staff with instructions on monitoring for symptoms and where testing sites are located across the city. Next slide, please. Our solid waste, recycling, and yard trimming tonnages for the 3-month period has remained pretty steady despite some increases in collections for yard trimming and recycling due to reduced staffing, again due to COVID-19. The Office of Fleet Services compliance remains high. With reduced staffing numbers, our preventable safety accidents and events decreased for the FY24 quarter. What has been noticeable within the department has been the increase in incidents, which we attribute to increased anxiety within our workforce due to the pandemic. Many of the accidents occurring with our personnel and equipment are attributable to civilian vehicles hitting our vehicles as opposed to past trends. We attribute this reduction to the oversight of our supervisors and their coaching utilizing the DriveCam system, which has improved significantly over the past quarters with direct involvement with the safety group from the Commissioner's office. Next slide, please. Solid waste collections show a 14% increase in tonnage for household waste and debris from last quarter, a 12% decrease in yard trimming, and a 10% increase in the amount of recycling collected. There was also a drop in miles swept for the last 3 months of the quarter. Keep Atlanta Beautiful continues to hold community cleanups throughout the city despite the current crisis, and during the 3-month period, they increased collection of litter, trash, and debris covering 70 miles of city streets, totaling 21,000 pounds. Next slide, please. During quarter 4, there was a steady rise in service level agreement percentages for solid waste and recycling. Yard trimmings rose during May, but began decreasing in June as the coronavirus cases within the state began to rise again. Next slide, please. With the stay-at-home order still in place for the City of Atlanta, numbers of the Office of Fleet Services have dropped for vehicle and equipment maintenance and service repairs due to idle equipment. For the 3,900 pieces of equipment that we have a total of about 1,400 units that are idle at this point. The department saw an increase in the citywide vehicle availability and the amount of revenue from vehicle and equipment auctions. Next slide, please. Although numbers are down due to reduced staffing, our safety division continues to focus on prevention and training, as well as the DriveCam system, to minimize preventable accidents and injuries. Digital displays installed at DPW facilities are emerging as a useful communication tool to promote safety messaging for employees. Next slide, please. The new recruitment process launched last quarter that focused on turnover reduction and retention for solid waste employees continues. Overall, the department has 115 unfilled positions.
and both solid waste and fleet services both stand at 83% of the positions filled for DPW. Next slide, please. Here's some questions that we received from the committee from our last update, and wanted to share that, give some explanation to some of these questions. As pertains to garbage, with the operations transition from quadrant-based servicing to area collection and route optimization, there has been a significant improvement on hitting the service level agreement targets and reducing missed collections and overtime. For the recycling, with the city's citywide recycling education efforts to Keep Atlanta Beautiful, the Recycling Partnership, and the Feet on the Streets program, which launched last November through the use of a $4.1 million grant from the Coca-Cola Company, where Coca-Cola's desire is to recycle the equivalent of a bottle or can sold around the world by 2030. Data from the Feet on the Streets campaign has helped us to realize that while nearly 40% of our residents do set out recyclable material at some point during the collection cycle over a monthly period, on a weekly basis, we're seeing that only 16% of the residents are setting out their recyclable material. This kind of data has helped us to ascertain our levels of efficiency and service delivery citywide. Our bulk collection currently has a 30 to 60-day wait due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the department's requirement that if items do not fit into their containers, they must schedule them for collection. We're in the process of deploying a contractor who will assist us in driving down the number of illegal dumping locations that we have throughout the city, as well as working on our bulk collection schedule backlog so that we can bring that down to within acceptable ranges. Next slide, please. Madam Chair, that concludes the Department of Public Works fourth quarter update, and I am available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Colleagues, if you will hit your speaker button, I will take this in order. And you see Mr. Hillis has hit his button first. Please proceed.
Thanks, Chairwoman. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson, for your presentation. First, just wanted to give my thanks to your crews. As you mentioned, they've been working through this pandemic and through the weather. And I know they recently, there was an issue with the street in my neighborhood where there was a lot of silt and street was dirty, not sweeping wasn't taking care of it, and they came out and scraped it and did a really great job. And then also picked up some unfortunate illegal dumping that happened on that street. So just wanted to thank those crews for that. The first question I have is, and I brought this up a few times before, when this administration came on and a number of us new council members came on back in 2018, the mayor outlined a program to really buckle down on maintaining and sprucing up the quote-unquote gateways to our city. I have 3 of those in District 9, Marietta Boulevard, Beckman Parkway, and Hollowell Parkway. And I haven't really seen a lot of improvement in how those look in regards to keeping them cut very low, keeping trash off of them. So, one, are you familiar with that program that she spoke about when the mayor first came on? And 2, has that program been implemented yet, or where are we with that?
Thanks, Councilmember Hillis, for that question. Yes, sir, I am familiar with the program. When I came on board just after the mayor was elected, we initiated phase 1 of Fix It Atlanta, and that phase focused on our pothole situation that we provided some tremendous results on. The beautification of the gateways was part of that program. However, given the number of concerns that were expressed about the potholes, our focus turned to addressing the condition of our streets. As we have launched Fix It Phase 2, Fix It Atlanta Phase 2, the gateway portion is going to be a part of that, and as we speak, the Deputy Chief Operating Officer has already begun working with other departments alongside DPW to begin identifying where these gateways are, and again, utilizing the Keep Atlanta Beautiful Commission, which has a role in that activity. We will begin identifying these locations and then setting a plan in place so that we can begin identifying them or addressing them. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. And is that CCOO, Mr. Johnson?
It is.
Okay. Thank you for that update. I look forward to that. As I stated, I have 3 of those, and they could really use the TLC. That's all I have for now. I may have some other questions, but I'll yield to my colleagues. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Shepard.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I heard you talk earlier about 115 vacancies in your department. Now, how many of those are in, when you say 115 total in your department, how many of those are actually in the collection portion of it? I see at the bottom on page 11 where you talk about your challenges, and you have driver turnover and vacancies, aging fleet, equipment repair. So in terms of driver turnover, are we having a huge amount of driver turnover at this point, or even vacancies at this point? And my question is it any of this related to COVID-19, or talk to me about that.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for that question, Councilmember Shepard. As you know, it's been a continual challenge for the Department of Public Works, and particularly solid waste, to fill the vacancies that we have within that division. We have a total of that 115, 73 of those are in the actual collections area. And at present, I recall we had 32 of those vacancies were operators, and the remaining portion of that were labor or environmental service workers. Recently, we brought on board 4 new solid waste operators, as well as 8 new environmental service workers. And the turnover, whatever the turnover it is, it impacts our ability to operate, primarily due to the fact that we have been impacted in the manner that we have by this pandemic. Today, we have a total of 28 members who are out sick, a total of 54 absent, and many of those individuals are experiencing either symptoms or they are asymptomatic, but they are fearful of actually coming to work because of being in contact with people or being in contact with coworkers who have also experienced the contraction of the disease itself. In addition to that, we are dealing with continuing to improve on our expectations as far as the performance is concerned with our operators, and as such, the turnover with our operators is not as high as with our laborers or environmental service workers, but it is significant. Anything that we encounter in terms of the loss of an operator directly impacts our ability to operate. For example, today, we're at 75% in terms of our personnel who are assigned in the collections division. That's out of 213 personnel. And again, it's associated with the 28 that are sick. We have a number of other employees who are either injured or on FMLA or admin leave. And that directly impacts our ability to field a full team of 60 crews to provide the collection services for all 3 services, that being solid waste or garbage, recycling, and yard trimming. Today, we have all routes covered.
Today, you're saying as of this Tuesday, you have all routes covered?
As of this Tuesday, we have all routes covered.
Even with the shortage?
Even with the shortage. But understand, when we cover these routes, because of the nature of public works and the fact that we have equipment operators in other areas of operation, we pull those operators as needed to ensure that we cover these 3 primary collection services. So there may be other areas where not be deploying teams. For instance, right now, because it's raining, our right-of-way maintenance teams may not be out, or I don't know, they're not deployed at this point. And as a result, we have the ability to pull any solid waste operators that we have from right-of-way maintenance and to plug in to ensure that we cover all of our routes.
Okay. Well, you know, I would say to you, and I know you know it because I talked about it with code enforcement also. I say to you right now, it's one of the worst I've seen. It's just really sad. It hurts my heart when I go out and I look at all the trash on the street, and in particular the bulk. A lot of bulk trash everywhere. You know, not the regular trash, but bulk trash. And what's the people are calling in for bulk, but how far are we behind in terms of bulk pickup? And are we even doing any bulk pickup?
Yes, ma'am, we are collecting bulk. But also please understand that equipment is probably the highest used equipment in addition to our collection units in our fleet right now. Out of the 8 units that we have available to us, we have 4 that are running today. However, because we've set our capacity at 175 collection stops per day, if we lose one unit, we need a minimum of 5 in order to have all of our crews be able to service between 35 and 40 of those collection stops per day. When we lose one unit, that means that the other 4 units have to cover down or to collect those remaining 35 to remain so that we remain on schedule. And to this point, we have been able to do that, even given the fact that we have so many of our people that are out either sick or recovering from the pandemic.
So do we see any light at the end of the tunnel? Do you have any plans, like plan A, plan B? Are we trying to hire? You said we have 115 vacancies. They're still open and people can still apply. And what is that looking like?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, as part of the mayor's Fix It Atlanta Phase 2, we have 3 resources. I mentioned briefly in my presentation, WorkSource Atlanta, who applied for and received a national emergency grant. There were a total of, I believe, between 50 and 55 persons who have been identified who have been displaced and who we were looking at or who WorkSource is actually working with to get them through their process so that we can begin interviewing these personnel. As of 2 weeks ago, we had 18 of those individuals who actually sat through the first orientation for WorkSource, and they're continuing to bring those people in and conduct orientations so that we can get them through the paper or the application process with WorkSource. A lot of that.
This is to replace all the operators and things that you have right now. You have 32 vacancies in terms of operators. Is that what you said?
We do.
And then 73 in collection. Is that what you said?
No, ma'am, not 70. 73 total in collections. Yeah.
Okay, and 32 are actually operators who are out sick. I'm sorry, 73 collections, 32 operators. You have 28 out sick. And 54 out sick.
Well, and now that 28 may not be all operators. It could be environmental service workers as well.
Okay, and so, but a part of going through WorkSource Atlanta is for you to replace these guys, some of these people in those particular fields that you're short on. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, that's to fill the vacancies that we have.
To fill the vacancies?
The 115 vacancies that we have, correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. The 115 vacancies. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm a little concerned. I know that we are in a something that's different and entirely just taking us all by in waves, but just the amount of trash that's on the street, and I think we're going back to this culture. There's people see trash on the street, they put more trash on the street. That's what I see happening now. People just dumping on top of already what's out there. Everybody else is doing it, they put it out there too. And how are your folks who actually write up things? How do they go out and write up? Do they just go out every day and write up, or do they get reports to 311?
Well, we have 3 sources. One is our suite officers who actually do patrol the city. 2 is code enforcement with the work that they're doing when they do have these set-outs from evictions and or other activity that requires code enforcement involvement. And the other are the 311 service requests that come in. we utilize those 3 areas, and it's those 3 areas that we'll be pulling from as we actually begin deploying the contractor that we're bringing on board, primarily to address the illegal dumping. And we should have the PO for that contractor today so that we can begin assigning them to hit these areas. As of 2 weeks ago, we had 332 locations that we identified through our report. As you know, we were working with one of the neighborhoods in your district and providing them a report on a weekly basis on our activities, both with our suite officers, the code enforcement, and with the service requests that we were receiving. And we're continuing to monitor those areas as well. And once we get the contract report, they're going to be assigned.
So I just need to get clarity on what I think I just heard you say. So the suite, when calls come in for 311, who goes out? Is it the code enforcement officers or is it the suite officers?
It depends on what the nature of the call. And our call service reps actually write up the service request based on the nature of the call that's coming in, and based on that, if suite officers get it and the indicators in the request are such that it requires code enforcement, then we immediately communicate with code enforcement. Sometimes for the most part, we go out anyway because we want to check to make sure what's actually going on there. But we're definitely communicating with code enforcement so that once we arrive on site, if it is a code enforcement issue, they're already apprised to the situation so that they can immediately dispatch and begin working to address the issue as well.
So I just want to get clarity. So in terms of code enforcement, how many code enforcement officers do you have specifically?
I do not have code enforcement officers.
So you don't have code enforcement officers at all. So the code enforcement you're referencing is through the code enforcement with the police department. So your suite officers are the officers who actually write up trash on the street. And so if you get a call from 311 in reference to a call in reference to trash on the street, bulk trash, does that go to code enforcement or does that go to you?
It comes to us. And as I shared, we go out, we investigate the situation to ensure or to identify exactly what it is so that we know what actions to take.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to get clarity. I was confused about that for a moment based on what you were saying. The other last thing I'm going to say is, correct me if I'm wrong, if you see trash on the street, when people are picking up trash, your people actually picking up trash every week on the street, and they go down the street and they see a huge amount of dumping and just things that happen, do any of your folks report that?
That's what we're asking our operators, our crew chiefs to do, is to come back and make reports to make us aware of it so that, again, we can send out our suite officers and our supervisors so that we can check the situation to see exactly what's going on there, and from there know what we need to do next.
I just want to hear that because I was on the street last week on Banks Avenue where I got a huge call. I was appalled by when I went on that street, that it was completely overgrown. It looked like it was horrible. The overgrowth of grass on both sides of the street, out in the middle of the street. It's a small street, dead-end street, but there's about maybe 8 houses on the street. But it's like a place where people can illegally dump and do things. But of that, what I know is that they go and pick up trash on that street every week. And if they're picking up trash on the street every week, I couldn't understand why no one had ever looked at all the other things that was happening on that street, and no one had ever reported. Because it was obvious when I went on that street last week that was something that had been out there for quite some time. And people called me and saying, you need to go down there. And I hadn't been on that street in about a year. And so I was shocked by what I saw. Your department did come out and pick up some of the stuff, but then they pushed a lot of the stuff into a ravine as opposed to actually picking it up. And so I was a little stressed about that. But it's quite obvious that we have a major problem in terms of your department, and it's obvious what you see on the streets, driving on the streets every day. So I'm just trying to get clarity. Some of these questions I would have asked you in Code Enforcement Commission, but we hadn't had a meeting in quite some time. But Commissioner, I just know that you have a huge challenge ahead of you, and I'm just trying to figure out what we can do to help you out. You have a major challenge, and I still would say that a lot of it is your department at some point needs to be completely revamped and changed over, where they're looking at things much more comprehensively. But we have a huge challenge. You have a huge challenge in front of you. Thank you for Polar Rock, what you did for the Polar Rock neighborhood last month. They were very pleased with that. But there's so many other neighborhoods out there like that. So I'm still have a huge amount of concerns about where we are with trash in our community. But thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome, Councilmember Shepherd. And to the point that you make regarding the situation where debris was pushed into a ravine, I am investigating that. I am highly disappointed in hearing that, so that we can find out what transpired with that. That is not what we expect our people to do. I imagine, well, I won't say what I imagine I think happened, but I'm actually investigating it to find out, because a situation such as that should never occur. To your point, we are working to improve on how we actually identify these locations throughout the city. We understand that it is a frontline supervisor, mid-level manager situation, and we're working to hire right now 4 new supervisors where we have vacancies, so that we can begin getting people in here who are going to be responsible and accountable, and also not just ensuring that we dispatch properly on a daily basis and ensure that our people are safe throughout this pandemic, but that we also take the initiative to ride these routes, check what's actually happening on these routes, as well as to communicate effectively across the organization as well as up and down the organization. And that's been a challenge that we've been working to try to overcome since my coming on board.
All right. Thank you.
Ms. Boone? Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Commissioner, just wanting to thank those sweet officers that have been out on the Candlelight Lane area. We've been dealing with several issues over there. They have been on top of all of the issues, including patrons leaving their garbage cans out all week. The additional support that your staff has provided to Boulder Park, Carroll Heights, the Hermer Circle, Tribble Lane area has really helped that area in the midst of everything we have been going through. Ms. Dodson, Ms. Braswell, Mr. Whitehead, Ms. Singleton, and Ms. Campbell have been very responsive, even in the midst of folks complaining about the yard trimmings. They've been able to call them back, and even working on Saturdays for our Operation Clean Sweep. The churches have been involved, and you all have provided much needed support. So again, thank your entire team on behalf of my council district and my MPUs. We just want to say thank you. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, ma'am, Councilmember Boone. One of the things that I shared with the committee during the report was the fact that we've had a significant increase in garbage set-outs. We went from an average of about 1,300 tons per week at the beginning of March to almost 1,800 or near 1,900 tons at the end of May. That number has subsided somewhat now, and we're now averaging about 200 additional tons. But to Councilmember Shepherd's comment, it looks as though when people see things that are being set out, they take it to their mind and they go ahead and set it out as well. Well, our code, not our code enforcement, our street officers are also monitoring their reports, and they're required to provide reports on a daily basis on their observations. These reports are reviewed on a weekly basis, and there are actually meetings conducted to identify what actions have occurred, what needs to happen to follow up, to ensure that we address these issues, and to communicate with solid waste, particularly on the illegal dumping and the bulk side of the house, so that we are taking proactive measures within the department to identify these locations. Now that we have done that, again, to the point that I made before, we've identified over 332 locations throughout the city. We were just outgunned, if you will, in terms of our capacity to address these, and as a result, and as part of the mayor's Fix It Phase 2, or Fix It Atlanta Phase 2, we are actually bringing on board a contractor. We should have that PO today. And that contractor's primary responsibility when we deploy them will be to address these 332 locations, in addition to any other locations that we identify throughout the city. Once they get that number addressed, we will then begin deploying them on our bulk schedule request so that we can begin pushing the wait time down from 60 days to within a reasonable expectation. You will recall that there had been a point where we had a 10-day schedule wait for bulk, and that is our target. We don't know how or when we're going to get back there. Our focus is on making sure that we, one, address the illegal dumping, and two, then begin to deploy them on the scheduled bulk request so that we can get closer to what we consider the norm before the pandemic struck.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Mazzacott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, I want to echo the comments of my fellow council members that this is a really difficult time, and we appreciate the efforts that you're making, as well as the men and women of the department who are out there every day on the front lines. So thank you. We know it's a very difficult time. I had a couple of questions with regard to yard waste, and again, I appreciate the situation with COVID making it difficult for us to have the workers necessary to get those pickups. Could you please talk about your plan for getting us back up to full pickups and maintaining that level? And does that include any use of outside services to supplement the department workers?
Well, thank you for that, Councilmember Mazzacott. Yes, the current plan, again, I refer back to the Mayor's Fix It Atlanta Phase 2 program, where we're partnering with WorkSource Atlanta, and we're going to utilize their national emergency grant to try to bring on personnel to fill these, as many of these 115 vacancies as we can. We're also partnering with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. And as I understand it from conversations yesterday and on Friday, we've got about 40 people who have expressed interest in positions here within the city and within the department through the Office of Immigrant Affairs. And they are going to be holding job fairs, if you will, so that they can begin bringing these people on board to fill these positions, to backfill these positions. Because the one thing that's steady right now is our reality that we have a significant number of our personnel who we have on board who are out sick. And that number, we continue to monitor that. It is covered between 20 and 28. So again, to the plan, Workforce Atlanta is one area that we're working with very closely. I mentioned earlier that we had between 50 and 55 names that had been identified. A couple of weeks ago, we conducted the first orientation where we had, I believe it was 17 or 18 of those individuals that had been identified went through the first orientation, and we are working them through the paper process. We can't control how quickly that occurs because that's one of those areas where they themselves, the individuals, have to complete the process. Once they complete the process, then they are made available to us so that we can begin filling these vacant positions. That will likely be the case with Immigrant Affairs, who, working with Human Resources, I believe, will begin to bring those personnel on board. And again, that's another 40 potential candidates that have been identified. In addition to that, I mentioned the contractors. Once we begin to deploy the contractors, it begins to free up the personnel that we are now utilizing to address as many of these issues as we can internally in our depleted state, and we can now turn those personnel back inward to our three primary collection operations, solid waste or garbage, recycling, and yard trimming. And that will, at some point, we envision within the next, hopefully 30 to 45 days, we will begin to see a stabilization. Please don't hold me to that, but what we're working to do is to stabilize our operation by augmenting our forces with the contractors and by bringing on personnel through these two portals. In addition to that, our sister departments, the Department of Transportation, Department of Parks and Recreation, and Watershed Management have all volunteered personnel to assist us. We're working with them to ensure that we plug these people in where we can. We had a total of 10 personnel between the Department of Parks and Recreation and Watershed Management who had been identified. Not all of them should have actually plugged into our operation, but as many as are willing are coming to us, and we're plugging them in. And these are not laborers; these are operators, so we can actually put them into our vehicles. As it pertains to stabilizing, I think that's going to be a byproduct of actually getting the contractor on board so that we can free up personnel who are actually addressing the illegal dumping. And once we do that, we should have a number of individuals who can then turn to and begin focusing on the three primary collection services. And we should see an immediate change or improvement in that area. As I shared also during the conversation, today we have all routes covered. I think that is in large part due to the fact that we have inclement weather. So many of the right-of-way maintenance crews that we have out there servicing, we're in the northeast and southwest, servicing the northeast and southwest sectors of the city during the month of August, are now actually plugged into our collections operation, and as a result, we have all routes covered today. Did that answer your question, Councilmember Matt?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. That's a lot going on there. How will you communicate this to our residents and what they can expect? We are sympathetic to the situation. Not knowing what's going on is causing lots of questions and confusion. What is the communication plan to residents?
Currently, our communications plan involves our ability from the operational side of the house to inform our ATO 311 call service reps of our situation so that when they receive the inquiries, they're informed and can inform the residents as to our current status. We don't want to begin announcing that we are at a certain point until we are confident that we are stabilizing or coming out of the situation. So what we're continuing to do is to deliver those services based on the operational capabilities internally within the organization. Again, bringing on board the contractor is going to help us significantly from the standpoint of realigning those personnel into the operation. But our current communications plan involves our daily communications with our ATL 311 call service reps, as well as service reps that had formerly been part of DPW that are now part of the ATL 311 service center.
Commissioner, when did you say that contractor was going to come on board?
We are in the process of completing the PO. We hope to have it done today. As soon as we get that done, we will begin deploying or assigning the contractor. It could be as quickly as tomorrow, Councilmember Matskite.
So it's a this week kind of timing?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. I would encourage you to look for opportunities to communicate this message a little broader, especially once the contractor is on board, so that individuals know what to expect, and we can potentially answer questions ahead of flooding the 311 or council members' offices, constituent service offices. So would encourage you to look for other opportunities either through the app or through some other type of communication. That's all. The other question I had was around if you could give a quick update on bin replacements and where we are there. Again, I know that there's some issues, but if you could just reiterate that, that'd be helpful.
Yes, sir. We just received a shipment about 2 weeks ago. We were behind in our bin deliveries, but that's where one of the areas where we incurred increased costs as a result of the pandemic, and we very likely will be submitting another order so that we stay ahead of running of the request, and as a result, not run out of bins. But right now, we're working to get back on schedule. I don't know what our actual backlog is, but I can get you that information. We did receive a shipment about 2 weeks ago.
That'd be great if you could follow up. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. I don't see anyone else in the line, so I'm going to ask questions. Let's see, I've got some.
Shook after you, Chairman.
Oh, no, go ahead. I forgot you didn't have your computer up. Go ahead, Mr. Shook.
Well, okay, thank you. The most important comment I'm going to make is this. My respect and sympathy for the frontline workers who do these jobs is without limit. And they should not be blamed for anything. Commissioner, I will also tell you that I'm comfortable in assuming that when you were being recruited for this job, you maybe weren't given the full pictures of what you were about to inherit. Now, trash is getting picked up, recycling is getting picked up, yard waste is not getting picked up. Is that the result of a kind of a management Sophie's choice in terms of what needs to get picked up first, second, and third?
If I understand your question, Councilmember Shook, do we prioritize? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
The crucibles first. Anything that can spoil or create an environmental situation, always that's the first item to get picked up, followed by items that have either contained food stuffs, which also present a protrusible situation, are next, then yard trimming. So to answer your question, yes, it is prioritized. Solid waste or garbage first.
Yep, which is rational. I agree with that. Looking at your slide, I don't know what it was, 5, yard trimming collections through June were down, 40%, even though it's the spring and kind of getting through midsummer when there's presumably more out there. I'm not sure what else that could reflect except lack of pickup. I assume July will be dismal. I will tell you that you can see with your naked eye that the assertion that yard trimmings are being picked up is, to use an arcane accounting term, horse hockey. My question is this: is solid waste citing people for having too many yard waste bags out when in fact they're being added to ones not being picked up?
Well, and the answer to that, Councilmember Shook, is we were issuing what we refer to as courtesy citations to remind the residents that once the number of bags that are out exceeds the 20 bag limit that we're asking them to call in. What we have done, though, to address that issue is we have instructed our suite officers to not issue any courtesy citations, rather to identify those locations internally so that we now can put them in the collections cycle as far as our bulk collections, and to have our service request, our customer service personnel contact the residents to make them aware that we are aware that they have yard trimmings out there, but because they have exceeded the 20 bag limit, they're going to be scheduled for collections and give them the collection date.
All right, and again, I feel bad for whoever has to do that. The ones on my street, and I got dogs, I walk them, and they're totally rotted. The bottoms have fallen out. I mean, that's how long it's been. Now, which leads me to this narrative that things worked like a Swiss watch before COVID. Well, that dog don't hunt to those of us who have been around here. It's never worked right. This is an exacerbation, but it's never worked right. I think instead of fines, people should get a refund. And so I'm going to conclude with this, Commissioner. Take advantage of this opportunity. You know, what would you tell your customers right now? I mean, what would you say to them? I'm not going to put words in your mouth. What would you say to them right now?
Well, Councilmember, what I would say is that we're working diligently to provide the services that we are responsible for providing. As you know, we're currently looking at our service rates. Our service rates have never been where they should have been in terms of what we actually need in order to provide the levels of services that we're responsible for. That is being reviewed right now. So to the thought of a refund, the residents were not paying or are not paying what they should have been paying to allow us to actually fully fund the operation to do everything that we have been identified or held accountable to provide at this point. So what I will tell the customers is that we're going to continue to work diligently and professionally to provide the services that we are capable of providing with the resources that we have available to us right now.
All right. Well, in your presentation, you alluded to kind of in woe is me terms about the rates of the vendors having climbed exponentially in recent time, when in fact that's as a result of contract terms that your department recommended, where we get to be charged whatever someone feels like charging us.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that, Councilmember Shook. As you know, our bid process is a competitive process. And we don't just look at price. However, price is a significant factor in our selection of a vendor who demonstrates that they, one, can provide the services that we're requesting within the time frame that we're requesting them. But we also look at the actual cost of the service. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that we're allowing them to charge us whatever they desire to charge us.
All right. Well, I'll conclude by saying I'm thoroughly disenchanted. This unit is supposed to be run, quote, like a business, which is kind of Orwellian. In fact, if it was a business, it would have been out of business long ago, without the bailouts from the general fund. But, and again, you were sold a bill of goods when you took this job. I don't know what it's going to take to get it right, but I'm going on record saying I've had it. We got to keep chopping away and get this right. And man, if any of my constituents get a fine because crap hadn't been picked up, I'm going to make you a project. Thank you. I'm done.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Mazzucati, did you hit your speaker button or did I forget to remove you from the queue?
You can remove me. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right, Commissioner, I've gotten a question here. This is Armstrong from Council President Moore. When specifically, and as you look at quickly on the horizon, when did you say yard trimming would resume to as much as 100% service as possible? When did you say that?
I did not, Madam Chair. What I shared was that we are looking to try to reestablish full service as quickly as we can. And that is going to be a byproduct of filling the 115 vacancies that we have working through WorkSource and the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, as well as deploying this contractor so that we can reassign those personnel back into the 3 primary collection services.
Have you looked at some innovative ways to address this challenge? And I hear all the things that you say you're working on, but this was a conversation with President Moore, and having the possibility for neighbors to drop off yard trimming in some quadrant set up around the city. Have you looked at some other ways to approach getting this done? To Mr. Shook and everyone else's point, when these bags sit out rain after rain and mosquitoes set up maternity wards there, we've got the West Nile virus, kind of vermin, and it's just a public health hazard. And so we've got to do something more than say we're gonna do something. We need to do something. So have you and your team looked at possibilities around allowing for their pickup or okay?
Yes, ma'am, we have, and I apologize for not highlighting that as part of the discussion. We've already opened up the yard trimming location there on James Jackson Parkway to allow residents to drop off their yard trimmings. And we have 2 other locations here throughout the city that we had looked at and are in the process of opening those up as well.
I'm holding my face in my hand, and my mouth is wide open. What? Wow. Okay, let me ask another question. I'm going to come back to this point. I have consistently asked for in presentations and updates that there be an organization chart. I have no idea who your public information officer is. I don't know who's over your street officer. There's just a lot of gaps in what I know, and I don't know if the other colleagues have the same question, but I would like to know who is the point person responsible for the key area under public work. So can you get that out to us as quickly as possible?
Yes, ma'am, I can. And you sort of, I lost you. The key, was that?
No, I was saying I'd like to have an org chart for the departments when they bring their quarterly updates. Things change, and I'd like to know who the point people are responsible. I said, for example, who is your public information officer? Did your old one go over to Atlanta DOT? There's been this transition, and I'm not real clear about who's responsible for what right now. So
yes, ma'am. We can get you an updated org chart.
All right, and as I talk about the public information officer, when you say you've got this public access to drop off yard trimmings, but it hasn't been widely distributed, you forgot to include it in your update. Who is getting this information pushed out? How is it getting pushed out?
Well, at this point, we have not made any external announcements. We do make the information available to our call center service reps so that they can share it with the residents when should they call in asking us about alternatives. But we have not disseminated any information publicly regarding any additional activity throughout the department at this time.
I'm trying real hard not to invoke the spirit of Congresswoman Katie Porter right now, because there's so much in what you're missing in this opportunity to speak to the public, to talk to us around how we're going to navigate through this. I am so concerned about our workforce, wanting them to be safe, and understanding that COVID-19 has been a great disruptor. But I do think that challenges are an opportunity for us to really rise to the occasion. It's not an excuse to talk about, what the problems are. We get the problems. The path forward is what I'm really struggling with to hear from you. These are the same suggestions that you made the last time we had an update from you in the midst of COVID-19. And so it's not to dump on you or to not be appreciative of the work that the men and women who are our real frontline heroes are doing. But it's more an urgent plea for you to connect more with the public and with the council members who care deeply about the service delivery levels that our city is providing. We are not a business. We're in the serving others, whatever that. We're not trying to make a profit. We're trying to serve and protect as best we can, and so it's just really important to push that information out. I've been texting back and forth with my office staff to see if we knew anything about the clean sweep. We knew nothing about that, and I don't know if it's one of those best kept secrets, and if you know about it, they'll show up at your office, or if it's a fact or a situation where you have been so focused on service delivery in the midst of this public health pandemic that you haven't had the bandwidth to deal with connections with people, communicating with the public. But I have to say to you, it is my urgent plea that you reprioritize the communication dynamic of what you provide as a service to the public. The lack of information is causing a lot of consternation. It is causing people to question, our commitment. We have sanitation bills that are going out and are due, yet services are, at a point where people are questioning, can I anticipate having these services that I am now being asked to pay for? I know you get all of this, but I do think that it is important for you to understand that what I hear in your telling us what you're going through is not a sense of concern for the experience of the customer. And it's that gap that I think is causing me and the constituents that I represent, as we are looking at how can we get through this together. We need more communication, and we're not getting it. So if you would please work on that. And I don't think you have until the next billing cycle, the next quarterly update. The time to do that is right now. So I see Ms. Shepard has gotten back in the lineup. Ms. Shepard.
I was trying to be nice today and not go there, but y'all got me. My frustration is I just always want to be the one that seems to be so frustrated so much with this department. But I will tell you, Mr. Shook is right, that, the problems we're having in this department is COVID-19 is just a whole nother layer of putting something that was already just a problem. And it's just, as I listen to you all talk, it's just sad that, I hope the mayor's office is listening too, because it's just really, this department has struggled for quite some time. And not only for Commissioner Jackson, has always been a problem. But at what point are we going to eventually turn this department around? And right now with COVID-19, as I say, the trash is just horrible. It's on the street. And Commissioner Jackson, I've talked to y'all continuously about communicating and educating the community and just putting information out about what's going on. And as Ms. Archibald said again, here we are again with no accountability. It's so sad to where we are with this department. And the decisions that are being made internally, one of the things I would say about council members is that we are boots on the ground. If anybody know anything about what's going on in our community, the council members do, because our constituents call us continuously. But there's not a huge amount of interaction with you all when you all make decisions about what's going on in terms of the sweeps you're going to do and all of that. That's done in isolation of us. I agree with Ms. Archibald. I don't know how y'all come to those conclusions or even interact with us to have an assessment. Now, maybe you have it done with your, some of your people may do that, or they may have relationships with certain council members. But how is there a comprehensive look at our city as a whole to determine where we should go, who, what, when, where, how, and how do you measure all of that? So, Commissioner Jackson, I hate to get on this bandwagon, but it's very frustrating, and I just need to ask you, not only you, but the mayor's office, that we need to really address how dirty our city is and how bad it looks. Not only just now, it's worse now because of COVID-19, but just as a whole. So I'm just so frustrated, and I don't know where we're going from here, but I'm just going to, maybe we need to talk, Madam Chair, we need to maybe have a meeting with the mayor's office and just have a much more holistic conversation about what's happening with public works. But I'm a little frustrated at this point. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Shepherd, I want to react to that last part about the conversation with the mayor's office. I think that may be useful, and then immediately thereafter we get that last. You're cutting up, Madam Chair. You're cutting up. Can you? I don't know what's happening. I'm pacing up and down and walking. Okay, let me sit down. I was saying the idea of engaging with the mayor's office is great, but I also want to have the next step after that meeting, a communication with the public. It is that lack of information that is causing so much consternation. So we've got to help with this pushing out to the community. As you say, we are boots on the ground and can really help. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else with a question for the commissioner?
This is Councilmember Winslow. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm getting a lot of complaints, just like everybody else is, and I'm not sure what we need to do. I know we need to do something different. It was just stated, people are getting their sanitation bills. They're higher than they were last year. While we know we've been behind in terms of not raising sanitary service bills over a period of, I think it was 10 years before we even did anything this last time. But I kind of felt good because I thought we were going to get, our services were going to kind of level off. And it seems like it's almost fallen back, and that's disturbing to me. Now, I support all the sanitation workers. I've done events at certain locations. Done food. Provided food for them as an encouragement, because those that are there, as far as I know, they're working. Okay. And so we're all very grateful for that. But it's just very frustrating for us because, my people are telling me now, they're picking up bulk trash in Buckhead and they're not picking it up on the south side. But now I'm hearing it's being picked up, but I don't know where it's being picked up. And I don't know, this program that you talked about, I guess it was, a right-of-way program? That started June 27th, Commissioner?
Yes, ma'am, the Operation Clean Sweep.
Right. Now, an example of that. Okay. Now, they came down into District 4. I was very appreciative of that. And they gave me a listing of Lee Street, Avon, and I forgot where else. But there were like a couple of other locations that I had been sending information in that needed to be cut, and those haven't been cut this year at all. So, I'm kind of with Councilmember Shepherd, and Councilmember Archibong. Maybe there needs to be more communication between whoever's going to do this program, and then they could call us and say, well, where are your greatest needs, Councilmember so-and-so, so we can make sure we get those areas. I don't know if these areas were just picked, but they didn't really need any clean sweep. These people take care of their right of way. They cut them every day. So that's why I'm saying, it sounds good, but is there coordination, with information that the council people have sent in to say, okay, these are the areas that have been requested from the citizens, not from me, but from the citizens. that we do. So that's our frustration, is we don't feel as though whatever we're sending in may not be getting thoroughly, vetted out. So how do we work that out in terms of, and that's what Councilmember Archibald is talking about, is just more communication with the council people in terms of what's needed in the district to be done. How do we do that?
And I, Councilmember Winslow, that's one of the reasons why we do, and we have reached out to the council members before we come into the areas to let you all know that we're coming into the areas. The primary purpose behind that is to ensure that we are hitting those high impact areas, those areas that you are having the issues with. So to hear that, it's somewhat, it's confusing to me.
I've never been in those areas. I got the email the night before, and then the same evening I sent the email in on the area that needed to be gotten and said, I've sent this in about 3 times. Can we please just leave the other areas alone, and can we get this area? Because it's really bad. And they said they couldn't do it. And I said, well, can you get it on another occasion? And so that hasn't happened. So it's and in the past, these things have gotten done. I don't know. That's all I can say. No, I don't think anybody's trying to beat up on you, but what we're saying is that people are just frustrated out in the community, and they come to us with their frustrations and cuss us out. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. Thank you for listening.
Can I?
No, ma'am. I'm listening.
All right, I have Michelle. Go ahead.
Commissioner, you said that, you all let us know. But what I would suggest again is that you all don't make a decision as to where your spots, where you determine your bad spots are, or if you make that decision, what you can do is much farther in advance to say, we did an assessment of your area, and this is where we determined the areas that need concentration, and we want to recommend a cleanup. And then what you could do, or sweep, or whatever you're saying it's going to be. But then you need to let us make that decision. Just like I told you last time we talked, is that you all went to Hammond Park for a cleanup, and I'm not saying that wasn't necessary, but Polar Rock needs a cleanup much worse than Hammond Park did. We've done Hammond Park several times, but never did Polar Rock. You all went out there and did the cleanup, and you said, oh my goodness, this is horrible out here. We didn't realize it. But I'm telling you, as council members, we're the ones that know where our egregious areas are and what needs to be concentrated first, second, third, or fourth. So I think it would be wise for you all to interact and say, if you're going to do a sweep in a particular area, call the council members and say, here's what we want to do. Here's our schedule. This is what we recommended. We just want to give your input before we do it, as opposed to just arbitrarily going out there and doing it based on what you see. Because, again, y'all may not have gone, and I've already seen that. I gave you case in point of the street I was telling you about just earlier, Banks Avenue. I just can't believe that no one had looked at all the problems on Banks Avenue, and even I didn't know that because no one on the street had called until it got to a point they couldn't stand it, and then they called, and I'm like, oh, my God. So I'm just saying, Commissioner, you all need to be actually working with us, and again, it's not just, and I'm going to say what other folks are saying too, the workers, they do the best they can. But a lot of this is decisions that you all have to make from a management level. And sometimes I'm just not sure how all of that's being done. And so, I'm not trying to criticize anybody specifically, but all I know is how it's working now on the streets in our community is not working. And so at some point we need to figure out how we can make it work. With COVID-19 or without COVID-19, we've got to really get this right. So that's all I'm going to say today. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Boone. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Would like to just, again, thank you all for the resources that you all have been sending to my area. And on Sunday, August 30th, 8:30 a.m., we have members of our faith-based community and we will have 100 volunteers gather at the C.T. Martin Recreation Center. We will go out into various quadrants of our district and do some cleaning, because cleanliness is everyone's problem. When folks throw trash out of their cars, that accumulates. When folks don't know to make an appointment, and we're doing education on that, and things compile, we're going to be doing all of that with your department. So thanks for the vans and the equipment, the bags that you all, gloves that you all will be sending out to us on Sunday, August 30th, 8:30 a.m. To 12, and we will gather at the C.T. Martin Recreation Center and go out into our district. Again, thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Boone. Anyone else? All right. Well, Commissioner, you go out on a positive note, but I know that you've taken note of all that we have said. This is escalating up to a fever pitch, and it needs to be addressed holistically and with real engagement of the council and the community. So I look forward to receiving your org chart. I look forward to finding out who your public information officer is, and I look forward to hearing from you very specific, concrete next steps addressing the challenges that are facing your department. All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Evans, does that conclude our items for today?
Yes, it does, Chairwoman. Move to adjourn.
God bless you and thank you. All right. We are adjourned.
Mr. Matsakite, happy birthday to both of you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.